Thank you. Welcome to the Monday, May 16th, 2022 Southwick Conservation Commission meeting. It is a hybrid meeting, which means there are people here in the audience as well as people on Zoom. This meeting is going to be recorded. If anybody objects to the recording, they are free to drop off. So welcome, everybody. Just want to do a head count of commissioners that are here. It's myself, David McWilliams. We have Kevin Solak, Marissa Obregon Cook, and Jerry Patria. So we do have a quorum, so we can start the meeting. So first thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and take a look at the meeting minutes from May 2nd. I don't know if anybody has had a chance to read through those yet, but let's go through. If we haven't, read through them and either accept them or make any changes. I have not read through them.
And there's somebody absconded with their pen.
I didn't mind.
Thank you. If anybody's gotten through the minutes and would like to make a motion,
I'll move to accept the minutes.
we have a second.
Aye.
Kevin Solak seconds. Jerry Patria made the motion. Marissa?
Aye.
Dave McWilliams, aye. All right, so the minutes have been accepted. No problem. We're going to open up the meeting for any public comments. Anybody either in person or on Zoom have any public comments before we continue on with the meeting? All right. Yeah.
The signature page for the minutes. Okay, you can go on. I have to find my.
That's
original.
fine. We've got a minute before our first hearing. All right, so our first public hearing is a continuation from our last meeting. It is NOI for 194 Hillside Avenue. Who do we have here for the applicant?
Hello, everyone. Ryan Nelson from R. Levesque Associates.
All right.
Share my screen here. So we have revised the site plan based on the discussion we had at the last meeting. There was concern over the proposed structure and its proximity to the 50-foot buffer zone. Give everyone a recap. There's a wetland boundary that surrounds the site on 3 sides, to the north, to the east, and to the south. The lot was previously cleared without a permit, most of it within the buffer zone. The 50-foot buffer zone is this darker line shown here. And the proposed house is outside the 50. We've shifted the location of the proposed deck to be outside of the 50-foot buffer zone. And there was formerly a jog at the back right corner of the building with a proposed house. And we've relocated and allocated that space elsewhere to the north side of the building, away from the 50-foot buffer zone as compared to before. Additionally, we've modified the silt fence line and brought it in closer to the house, aside from the proposed well location, which has to be located here in order to maintain the required separation to the septic system out front, 100 feet. And the area outside the proposed silt fence with the limit of work that was previously cut will be restored, and we have plantings shown in this area. They consist of red maples, northern red oak for trees, and then for the shrub layer, we have common spice bush and witch hazel. The area that was cleared, the stumps were left in place, and there wasn't much in terms of bare soil that I think seeding wouldn't have a good contact to soil to germinate. And I think there's enough natural seed bank left in the soil that there'd be a good herbaceous layer that would sprout anyway this season. So we're just proposing trees and shrubs in that area, which is about 12,195 square feet. We have a proposed rain garden area that will take the roof leader water as well as the foundation drain around the house. That has not changed since the last plan. And then the final item that has changed is we have proposed conservation monument markers located along the limit of work, which is generally in most places synonymous with the 50-foot wetland buffer. So that summarizes the changes since last meeting. Happy to answer any questions you guys have.
I think the big thing that at least I know, I had asked at the last meeting with Brian, was to move the building in its entirety out of the 50-foot buffer. So I appreciate the efforts that you guys put into making that happen. And it's good to see the plantings on the plans right now as well. Anybody else from the commission? I know we've been out there. Have any questions about what we're looking at here? Concerns?
We're talking the usual size boulders for monumentation, Ryan.
We left it up to whatever the commission feels comfortable with. If it's boulders, signs, birdhouses.
Right. Because I notice it's still just a little bit close in some spots where that thing curves. It might be easy to, just break over that edge. So I'm not sure how everybody else feels, but maybe some large size boulders or something that can't be moved too easily.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with Jerry. Yeah. It's for those spots in particular. Yeah.
So if we don't have any more comment on this particular NOI, does anybody from the chair will entertain a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to
Okay.
close the hearing.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
So Kevin Solak made the motion, Jerry Patrick has seconded, Marissa,
Aye.
Dave McWilliams, aye. So the next thing we need to do is, can I entertain a motion to accept the project?
Are
you looking for conditions on it?
Right.
Like a
Yes,
bond
thank you,
and
Dennis,
stuff?
thank you, yes. So let's go through that beforehand. It's a good thing we have you on Zoom. So, yeah, conditions, I think we talked about the boulders. I think I would be satisfied with $10,000, the normal bond, and then the regular standard conditions that we offer.
Right.
Dennis, do you see anything else that you would be looking for on conditions?
I think that covers it, Dave.
Okay, so let's go back in time and I will entertain a motion.
I would like to make a motion to approve the project with conditions.
What?
And the boulders,
Yeah, with
our normal, you know. Input, order of conditions,
with the boulders,
boulders,
silt fencing
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
at the limit of work. And then the $10,000 bond.
Yes, in the bond, yeah.
Okay. We have a second?
Oh, sorry, I'll second.
Thank you. Jerry, how do you vote?
How about yay?
I vote yay. So there you go, Ryan.
Good call on the silt fence.
Again, very much appreciate the effort that you put into that and in making those changes.
Thanks,
you.
Ryan. Thank you, Ryan.
So we have our next hearing is at 7:20, so that gives us a little bit of time prior to going into our next hearing. So let's take a look at some of the new business stuff. So we received a letter from the Agricultural Commission regarding a Dan Cook, are you on?
He may not be on yet because I think he saw the full schedule, so.
Okay,
I just sent him a text letting him know that we were.
all right. So we'll wait until we see Dan. No point in talking about this without him here. Norm, we're gonna get you in early. Do you have any LPP updates?
The one item that I wanted to mention involves 101 Point Grove Road, the former Louis B's.
Yeah,
The LMC has believes that they are in violation of their Chapter 91 license with the configuration of the product, the addition of a second entryway, possibly violation of the 25-foot property line interference. And we made a motion and it would be passed forward to you folks to please investigate with DEP.
when do we expect to see that come over?
Well, we just had the meeting Thursday night, so you probably won't get it till next week, I guess.
Okay,
Norm,
Yes.
this is Dennis. Are there any wetland violations out there? Because conservation really doesn't have anything to do with Chapter 91.
Well,
If there's wetland violations, then they could get involved, but Chapter 91 is out of our hands. I mean, that's a state permit, the state license.
well,
Conservation really doesn't have any say-so unless they cut some more cattails down or done something that is in violation of the Wetland Protection Act, then the commission could get involved.
so Norm, did anybody from the from LPP mention reaching out to the state regarding the perceived violation?
we were asking that the Conservation Commission reach out to DEP.
Dennis, is that something we've typically done with Chapter 91s?
No, I know it's not our jurisdiction to get involved with Chapter 91. If it was a wetland violation, if they're doing something, a resource area, the bank, the cattails, the land underwater.
Yeah.
But as far as the Chapter 91 license goes, that's,
Yeah.
we only have jurisdiction over local permitting program. You know that, Norm. That's been a fact, since day one. There's nothing conservation can do unless it's a wetlands issue.
Well, I guess one thing we got to clarify is whose responsibility it is.
But I think it's been clarified. It's the DEP issues the license. It's their responsibility. The planning board has issues with the permits they granted, then that's the planning board zoning enforcement, but none of it's conservation. Right, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, if what you were talking about, a second entrance, was impacting the wetlands, then obviously we would want to get involved. I'm not familiar with anything that's happening that would be causing that, and I'm interested in seeing what you folks send over. But yeah, if it's a state issue, it's a state issue. I mean, we'd love to help you, but we certainly don't want to step on the toes of the DEP. If it's not anything that we can really hold them accountable to or enforce, I think it's just, it's a moot point. We're just wasting their time.
Do you have to be part of a board or commission to communicate to the state about chapter 91? I'm just wondering if Norm or LMC can go themselves and not have to get us involved. I
I'm
mean,
sorry, what was that?
is there a way for them to communicate to the state without being a board or commission necessarily? Or I'm wondering if Norm himself, on behalf of LMC, can go. I mean,
I
doesn't
would
have to
imagine
involve
anybody
us,
can
right?
put a complaint
So-
into the
But
DEP.
they previously have been in touch with him. Dick Grinnell has been, he's got a line of communications open with them, probably as much, if not more than we do.
With the DEP, yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen those emails.
And especially with the wetlands and waterway. He's the one that got in touch with the lady in Boston about the other chapter 91 permit that we were looking for.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, Norm, send over what you have, but I mean, rather than waiting, we're not gonna be able to really address anything if there's something to address until our next meeting. But if it's a concern of the Lake Management Committee, I would reach out to the DEP and why put it off?
okay. That was,
Anything else from our friends at the Lake
That's-
Management Committee?
That's it. I apologize for last week. I learned that when my computer says there's 1% left of battery life, it only lasts about a minute and it crashed.
You got lucky. You got
Anyway,
lucky.
that's it.
Thank you. Under old business, I know we had a conversation last meeting about 146 Berkshire Ave. I don't imagine anybody's come back to address that at tonight's meeting.
Nobody addressed it to me.
Okay. So we will scratch that off. Also under old business, we have not seen any requests for certificates of compliance for lot 7 and 21 from the Greens. Have you, I think, Ryan, you were saying you were waiting to hear something from, who was that?
Fiore.
Fiore, yeah. Any change on that, Ryan?
So I've been told 5 and 6 are, well, 5 has been seeded and trees were planted along the 50-foot buffer. Lot 6 is still in the works, so things are still in progress, but making progress.
This is lot 7 and 21 for the Green.
Let's see. I'm just reading my notes here. Lot 21 had been graded and seeded, and they're working on getting the boulders on the 100-foot buffer. And number 7, still waiting for a bond. So,
Okay, so there's nothing really we're gonna address tonight.
correct.
Okay, fantastic.
Hey, Dave,
Yeah.
it's Greg Hamlin, the builder for 7.
Yeah, hey,
How you doing? Hey, I'm just wondering, I'm waiting to do the bond for lot 7, Honeyberg Run, and lot 8, Silvergrass. I haven't received the paperwork from the meeting 2 weeks ago so that I can pull the bond. Do you have any update on that? So I can, all I'm waiting for is the paperwork, and I will be posting both bonds.
so Dennis, those are the ones we talked about the other day?
Yeah, we should be able to get that to that this week. Right now, Greg, we're kind of working in a triage mode, trying to catch up with stuff. I apologize for taking so long to get your issues handled.
Yeah.
We'll put.
I
some
just don't
time
want you to
aside
think I'm
this week.
forgetting about you guys.
Thank you.
Well, keep us on our toes too, please.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna go on to our 7:20 hearing, 14 Beach Road, replenishment of beach sand at the Southwick Town Beach. That's a continuation from the previous meeting as well. Is anybody on the call for this hearing?
Yes, Ryan Nelson from Arlevec Associates again.
Ryan?
And Scott Lyman. TV.
Attempt to
Hey,
share my
Scott.
screen. So at the last meeting,
Tynick.
briefly discuss the project, the town of Southwick Town Beach, wishing to replenish the beach sand on the existing beach. We were waiting on DEP comments. DEP only had one comment, and that was erosion control barriers should be shown. I did think about that. I think that's probably not practical or makes sense in this for this project, seeing as we'd be applying washed beach sand to a beach already consisting of washed beach sand. I'm not sure if putting silt fence along the mean, high water line of the beach would serve any purpose, and probably just do more disturbance. But open to whatever the commission has thoughts about that.
Ryan, you were saying you were gonna stop the replenishment. How many feet from the actual water line? Was it gonna go all the way?
It was going to go right up to the median or high water line. We didn't give an exact buffer distance per se.
Dennis Clark talking here. Ryan, for quite a while, we've been asking the town beach to come up with a operations and management plan, so we don't have to go through this. And we have had other, the South Pond Beach Association did come up with a nice plan. Just something that we know what we're going to do, that they don't plan on just letting this wash into the water. It would be something we've been looking for a long time. All the beaches really should have a 5-year plan, as far as when they plan on what they plan on doing and how they plan on doing it.
Yeah, I personally haven't had a lot of experience just because we were mostly inland projects. But I'd be happy to see, or if you guys could share any of the input from any of the other plans that are present, maybe we can incorporate some of those things.
Sabrina could help you with it. She's the one that wrote the plan for South Pond. So, right, Sabrina?
Yep, yeah. I still have it.
So you could share that with Ryan, don't mind?
Yeah.
Great.
So you could put that in the
course.
order conditions, Dave, so that you could
I
close
was
it
just
tonight
gonna
if you
mention
wanted to.
that. Yeah, Scott has some comments.
So Dennis, Scott Lehman from Tidic Landscaping and into the committee. So this project got off the ground. The premise of being a volunteer project from 3 firms that do a lot of business in this town. One is mine, the other one is Crestview, and our Levesque and Associates have volunteered their time for this. We did not plan on jumping in and taking over the creating the 5-year plan. We simply wanted to get the beach playable and usable again today. And that's the purpose of all these folks. I'm not sure how far, I kind of initiated this. I'm not sure how far the Levesque crew wants to get into this without working with Parks and Rec, but that is, our simple plan was to dress the beach, make it playable and usable. We actually tried back in 2020 to start this.
Right.
And it's taken this long to get here. So I want to throw that out there, that I'm not sure we should ask Ryan to go with a 5-year plan on it. I think simply the scope of this is just to dress above the mean high water mark. Again.
Yeah, I think the intent of what Dennis is saying is the responsibility of this plan shouldn't fall on any of the 3 of you, right? The volunteers. It should fall back on the Park and Recs department to have a plan of what they're going to do with that beach, right? So we can vote if we decide to make a motion and vote to approve the product under the order of conditions. We can say that we're going to need a 5-year plan, and that would be incumbent on the applicant to do that. And really, in this case, the applicant is the Parks and Rec.
Correct.
Right? So that, I think, kind of covers all the bases. It's going to make them formulate something that, is sustainable, right? And it's going to free you folks up to go ahead and do the work that you guys are volunteering very graciously to do for the town. Right? So it should be win-win.
Yep.
Right? Anybody have any questions for Ryan or Scott, since he's kind enough to join us?
Has the type of sand been discussed yet?
It has. So I don't believe the folks from Crestview are here, but we have a washed mason sand that passed a sieve analysis of like 2.35 or something. It's phenomenal. It's about as clean as I've ever come across for this project.
Excellent.
And that was the big concern initially, Scott, was we don't want dirty sand, you know.
We're not gonna
don't
take it
want
off the
dirty
streets
sand.
and dump it on the
Okay.
beach.
Okay,
I guess I do have one question on the DEP's comments, and what Ryan was saying about installing silt fence. So essentially, we're allowing them to put sand that is clean enough that can be in the water. Like, what is the are they gonna put silt fence in, and what is it going to do? Because what the sand, you're never gonna get any stabilization, so
right.
once you put the sand in, it's nothing, it's not like there's like a stabilization period, and isn't necessary to put silt fence.
Well, and I think that was Ryan's point, and if I listen to Ryan, I don't see any point in it either, to be honest with you. I mean, its intent is to be on the water's edge. So are you putting in silt fence to make sure something that's intent to be on the water's edge doesn't go into the water? It just seems like additional work,
yeah.
and like
I don't
Ryan
know.
said, now you would just be causing people to traipse up and down the beach to install that silt fence.
Well, and they're gonna have to trench in the silt fence, so you're just disturbing more than just, I'm assuming you're just top dressing the sand,
We are.
right?
We are.
So I would think trenching in silt fence is just gonna cause more potential for erosion, but that, I don't wanna step on DEP's feet either, but I just don't. I don't know, it just doesn't make.
I think the only reason DEP mentioned that is because it was in the plan, but it wasn't on the plan. You know,
Okay.
they're not the ones that, it was already mentioned there was gonna be silt fence, but it wasn't shown. I don't think that it would make any sense in anybody's planet to have a silt fence there for any length of time. I mean,
Right,
so.
right. So what we would need to do to move this project forward is just like we did with the last one, we would need a motion to close and then a motion to accept. The conditions on this one would be that the Park and Rec would be responsible for coming back to us with a 5-year plan, 5-year maintenance plan for the beach. So the chair will entertain a motion if somebody would like to make one.
I'll move to close the hearing.
Do I have a second?
Aye.
Kevin seconds. Marissa?
Aye.
Dave, aye. Do I have a motion to accept? We will entertain a motion to accept.
I'll move to accept the project.
Do I have a second?
With the condition.
Yeah.
With the conditions, of course. Yeah, right.
With the conditions of a 5-year plan coming out of Park and Rec, right? Kevin seconded. Marissa?
Aye.
Dave, aye. All right, Scott, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Ryan, thank you and your boss for doing this for our town.
Absolutely, anytime.
All right. Scott can leave. You got to stick around though, Ryan.
Thank you.
All right, so our next hearing is for 7:30. It's a continuation of an NOI for 138R Hillside Road.
Dave,
So
did
we-
you, excuse me, did you put that in the order when you made the vote about the 5-year plan? Was that
Yeah.
included or no? Yep,
Yep,
thanks.
Stands on
I know, but let's keep, now we're back on.
7:28. Okay.
So Ryan, you're here for 138R?
Yes, so last time we met, there was discussion about the DPW comments and addressing those. We have not had a chance to address those. So ultimately, nothing has changed yet, and we'd be requesting a continuance.
Ryan, we did get word from Randy Brown, who said he would be reviewing it for the commission, so we don't need to get a third-party consultant. He will be
Okay.
doing the review for that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so the applicant has made a request for a continuation. Do I hear a motion to accept?
Aye.
Kevin made a motion to accept. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Marissa seconds. Jerry?
Aye.
Dave, aye. All right, so we do have a couple of minutes. I see that Mr. Cook has joined the meeting. Hey, Danny, how you doing? You're on mute, bud.
Yeah. Very familiar.
Yeah, I can't unmute him. I can ask him to, but I can't
Yeah.
unmute him.
We had a minute, Dan.
Dan, it's on the bottom left,
He's going to the help desk.
the very bottom of your screen on the very left. It's a little microphone. Just hold your cursor under the,
I think he may be on his phone.
you're on your phone.
Dan, are you on your phone? Are you on your phone?
No.
Thought about getting
Run the
glasses,
little-
Dan.
Run the little pointer to the bottom left. No, no, it's going.
All right.
You should have come in person.
I know, yeah. Oh, there he is.
Dave,
You know,
oh, he got it.
Yes, thank you. Hey, Dan,
how you guys doing, and ladies?
how are you? All right, so Dan, can you please identify yourself?
Daniel Cook on 74 Tannery Road in Southwick.
Okay, so Dan, I'm just gonna read in a letter that we got from the Agricultural Commission. And it was dated today. Per our discussion at the Agricultural Commission meeting, May 11, 2022, I'm writing to document a vote the commission took relative to your project to replace a bridge over a perennial brook on your property. We understand that because the bridge is unusable, you can't properly manage the wooded portion of your property, approximately 2.5 acres. The commission voted unanimously that the bridge replacement project is appropriate for an agricultural exemption from the Wetland Protections Act, and we recommend that the Southwick Conservation Commission allow an exception under the town's general legislation, section 182-3B. Please note that the statute does require written notification to the Conservation Commission before work begins. So I'm sorry, who was that? Okay. So Dan, can you, well, first off, Dennis, can you explain to us how this process works? This is the first since I've been on the board that we've seen something like this.
Sure. Under the Wetland Protection Act, there are agricultural exemptions. And one is for normal maintenance of the property. We've done it a couple of times. Ask the Agricultural Commission for their thoughts on it, because some people might try to abuse a privilege, but we have their confirmation that it is actually a pre-existing crossing that they're normally maintaining or rebuilding. And it is for the purpose of agriculture. The commission could find that they believe it's agriculturally exempt.
Okay. Dan, you want to just explain what's going on?
Well, I bought the property like 3 years ago and the bridge had collapsed, and I've been planning on putting a new bridge. And now that I have the materials there, I'd like to put a bridge across it so I can get to that property.
Want to explain, Dan, how you're going to go about doing that? How it's not
I was
going
gonna-
to impact the bank or wetland?
I was gonna put 2 I-beams across it and, finishing off with some boards.
How long is the bridge going to be, Dan?
How long is it?
Yeah.
24 feet.
So that will span any resource areas. You won't be impacting any bank area, no brook area, no wetlands.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's news to me, but if it's a statute, it's a statute. I guess I would throw it out to the rest of the commission. Are there any questions on the project?
I mean, I saw a photo of it as an agricultural commission. It just looks like a replacement. It doesn't look like you'll be really impacting anything. And we've done similar things in the past to basically replace things that were already there. So the impact's going to be pretty non-existent, if not minimal, for something, an existing structure that was already there. Plus
Right.
there's that exemption. So all things can, it looks like a pretty standard clean project that he wants to do.
So Dan doesn't have to, but if an applicant wanted to cover their butts, they could file a request for determination, and there is a special clause in there for project is agriculturally exempt. They don't have to do that, but there is a provision for that if somebody felt that they would want to have something in writing.
But reading what I got from Bert, and again, it's secondhand, so I didn't read the actual statute myself. But it says it does require written notification to the Conservation Commission. So Dennis, would you expect that written notification to include plans of what the project is going to look like? I mean, again, this is all new to me. What would you believe the expectation would be of the commission to see in that written correspondence?
Yeah, the general area, the length of the bridge, and the construction and what it's for. Basically, what he said tonight, just to have it in written form.
Okay.
So if he added that documentation to his letter, say like a drawing showing the basic area, the basic dimensions, that would suffice, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That seems fair.
So do we want to just move this to the next meeting until we get that follow-up documentation to this?
Yeah, I don't think there's any, actual vote you take on it because it is agriculturally exempt until you say it isn't.
All right. Well, then why don't we just ask that Dan become forthcoming with that documentation so we can put it on file. And if there's no vote, I mean, does Kevin comments? Marissa, you made yours. I guess if it's exempt, it's exempt. Right, so I guess we'll move on. Danny, it sounds like we appreciate the fact that you reached out and let us know you were going to be doing this work. If you could just, again, put something in writing that adds a little bit of plan to this so that we can keep it with this file and send it off and send it into Gene, that would be great.
I will. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dan. All right, we have a 7:40 continuation of a hearing for an NOI at 141 Congamon Road. Ryan, is that you, I would imagine?
Yes, Ryan Nelson from R. Levesque Associates. I believe not this Saturday, the Saturday prior, we had a site visit Saturday morning, and there was some discussion about the vegetation between the docks at the rear, or sorry, the decks at the rear of the site, as well as some discussion around the slopes around the proposed retaining wall. So today we had submitted a revised plan, just clarifying some of these issues. First and foremost being the proposed retaining wall area located at the southeast portion of the parking lot. This is to accommodate additional spaces with the existing topography change. So the slope, once it's regraded, it will be seeded and erosion control blanketing will be applied. The seed will be an erosion control seed mix for dry sites. And this regrading is to accommodate for compensatory storage for some minor offsets within the 100-year flood zone related to fill of the retaining wall at that location. Additionally, there's an area of vegetation in the proximity to that proposed wall between the parking lot and the bank that has invasive plant species. Those will be removed, cut flush to grade, and any treatments thereafter may be required. So our goal is to not disturb the soil in that area. Also, any disturbed soils related to the installation of the ramps or any of the deck repairs will be seeded as well. And additionally, same sort of invasive plant species management applies to the northern shoreline between the existing parking and the lake bank. That area will be cleaned of debris and any trash and invasive plant species removed, but the roots of any existing woody vegetation would be left in place to help stabilize the bank. And formerly, there was a grassed or lawn area between the decks and the dock locations. And the past couple of years, it's been unkept since there's not been any activity there. So we'd like to cut that and keep it as kind of maybe a 2 times per year cutting, just to keep the woody vegetation down. And I think the applicant was intending to have some sort of seasonal perhaps chairs that patrons can use and sit along the shoreline. We had addressed DEP comments at the last meeting, and we had submitted an additional special permit request to the planning board that is ongoing. So those are the changes since last meeting. Happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Dave, do you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, Ryan, when we were out there, we noticed the parking area is going to be increased and impervious surface. And there's a couple of catch basins that are supposedly going to be reused or kept in place that supposedly drain onto the town drainage. So we asked Randy Brown to do that stormwater for us, and he agreed he would take a look at it, because I don't know if you can, there's going to be more impervious surface. I don't know if those catch basins are really any good, if they have any filters in them, how they work, and if you're able to, drain water onto town storm systems. So we're going to have, Randy's going to come back and he's going to do that for us, so we don't have to get a third party. Another concern we had was the vegetation that along the shoreline right now, that there's a lot of invasives. A lot of it should be removed, but should be replaced. We'd like to see a planting plan for the vegetation. And the third thing that I think is really important is the actual shoreline itself, the erosion, the actual current erosion that is taking place right now. It's undermined. And with the additional boat traffic, it's going to be increased tremendously. We'd like to see something to stabilize that shoreline, a retaining wall, rocks, something, because it's, as it is right now, you can stick your feet under there a couple of feet and it's coming down, and with the increased boat traffic, it's just going to get a lot worse. You're going to lose a lot of shoreline. Bank is going to recede back. So we'd like to see some kind of stabilization. Of course, a retaining wall would be the best, but boulders would work, or whatever we could do to stabilize that area. But once it's lost, it's lost. You're not going to get it back.
Right. Okay. Yep. So that's good news if Randy's willing to look into the stormwater. As far as the shore stabilization, I'll let Ken speak to whether his preference for plantings and where. I know, in the past, you guys are familiar with, vinyl sheet piling, retaining walls that we've done on similar projects. But in this case, I don't think Ken's able to do that right away. It's quite a considerable linear distance and they're not cheap. But maybe that's something in the future he might address, but we can look at maybe some more soft green measures we could do along that shoreline.
Hey, Ryan, it's Dave. Yeah, I guess my concern would be, are soft green measures enough? I mean, when you get down to the actual shoreline, there's a pretty good drop off. It could be a foot and a half in a lot of places, right? And I don't see, as Dennis said, I don't see that getting any better with more boat traffic coming closer and closer to the shoreline. I mean, as it's been the last couple of years, there really hasn't been any docks there. The boats have mostly been further out into the lake, but now we're bringing more boats closer to the actual docks and to the shore. I just see a rapidly eroding situation there. And to me, that's probably the most important thing, is to shore that up. I mean, I understand the DEP part or the Randy Brown with the water and that, but I think making sure that shoreline is stabilized is the most important thing. And I would strongly urge a good plan when you guys come back that's going to address that.
Okay, understood.
And of course, we like the sheet piling idea the best, Ryan. That seems like that is the best solution for, it's happening all over the lakes. The erosion is just, it's getting worse and worse every year. And if he does put it in a plan, a phased plan, by the time he gets to that phase, it might not be anything left to save on that shoreline.
Okay, yep, we'll take a look at it. I'll talk to Ken about that.
Okay. Anybody else? Jerry, Marissa, I know you were on the site visit. Any questions, comments?
Well, we talked about having the monuments there, and we realized that the sheet pilings are very expensive. I can understand that. But I do agree with Dennis that eventually that's going to wash away. And it probably, it would be to Ken's benefit to probably make sure that doesn't happen, because then you're going to lose land. So,
And not only that, but I mean, if you look at the proximity of the end of that deck to the shoreline, right? At some point, it's going to undermine the pilings for the deck, right? Then it becomes a safety issue. So, that may not be next year or the year after, but it's going to happen soon enough if that property isn't taken care of.
yeah, it may not seem like it now, but Dennis is right. As boat traffic picks up, people come zooming in to park their boats. They bring waves with them, and it's just going to splash against the shore. The same thing happened on Middle Pond a couple times, and the gentleman put in some nice boulders, and it really stopped it. So that's a cheaper alternative, and it may be something you want to look at.
So Jerry, when we were out there, if you jumped on the edge of the shoreline, you could actually collapse what is there now, and that's not going to take long for that to just end up in the lake.
It's already begun. Yeah.
It's got some severe undermining as it is.
Yep. So are there any other questions, comments from commission members?
Yeah, this is Marisa. Right outside of the area where there's handicap parking, I know that there was mention of keeping one of the trees that was there. Is that still going to be maintained? And could you just go into a little bit more detail, because that's a really steep grade, and there had been conversation that day of putting some sort of gravel. But I wanted to see where that conversation had gone, because I understand the mechanism of it, but we had talked with Mr. Eggleston about other possibilities of maybe stone gardens there, because it is kind of in tiers. It's just a really steep grade, and that's only going to degrade more once you have that impervious surface. And I had asked the engineer that day what sort of threshold there was, and all they had mentioned was that there was a pitch back into the stormwater basin, and that's fine, but there's still a steep grade there. And in terms of rainstorms and intense rain, I'm concerned about the grade on the other side of that threshold. So could you go into a little bit more detail about that, please?
Sure.
Right outside of the handicap area, yeah.
Yep. So we're talking about this area here.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's, I don't know if you remember, there's kind of a little bit of a peninsula of that steep hillside, and that's going to be cut back, and that's at a 3-to-1 slope. So that would be less steep than what's there now, but then there'd be an existing portion just to the north that would be untouched. We are limited as to regrading that slope because it would cause floodwater displacement. So ideally, I preliminary looked at bringing the base of the toe of that slope out farther, and that would lessen the grade, but that would be flood storage displacement, and we don't have the room on site to accommodate for that. So unfortunately, without, building an entire retaining wall along that length, we can't change the natural grade of that slope. But I think we can accommodate some of those concerns with plantings that can be incorporated into the bank stabilization as well. We are proposing to put erosion control blanketing for the temporary, stabilization during construction. But for long-term below that flood zone line elevation, aside from plantings, I'm not really sure what more we can do.
Is the tree being kept then? One of the trees? I mean, that would go some way towards that. I think there are 2 trees and there was discussion of at least one coming down and another one being kept.
I wasn't at the site visit. My coworker John was. He's on vacation today, but Ken is still on. I think he was there.
Ken was there.
Hi, Ryan. This is Ken Eggleston speaking.
Ken, what's your address, please?
Say again, please.
Can you just give us your address?
But my personal address is 4054 Mountain Road in West Suffield, Connecticut. I'm the owner of the property in question here at 141 Congamon Road.
Thank you.
And there was only one tree that was being removed, and that at the corner of the building. At the corner of the building, north of the handicap spot we were just talking about. There's another tree. The corner up, and where we go? No, the bottom, down in the south.
2 trees there.
Where the one handicap spot is right there. Right there. There's a tree, little bit right there. That tree would be removed. There's another tree a little bit south of that shouldn't be any reason to have to remove.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that that's going to be there.
We were-
'Cause I
we
think
were
that will go some ways towards shoring things up.
Right. We were going to
Like the-
clean everything around that tree, but because the
Right.
handicap ramp has to go right where the other tree is, it would have to be
So we're
removed.
gonna need to see that on the plan, on the actual plan itself. The trees that are gonna stay and the ones that are gonna be removed, that needs to be on the plan. And Brian, one other thing that I don't know if you explained to Mr. Eggleston about the Chapter 91 process, because he's been telling everybody that they've applied for Chapter 91 license, and DEP has told us that there is no application. There absolutely is no application. Have you explained to him how that works?
Yes. Yeah. We had a meeting with Ken last week. That's squared away, and we're anticipating to submit that this week.
Okay,
Can
so
you,
we are in
let
agreement. It hasn't been submitted.
Correct.
Yes,
thank you.
I have found that out as well.
Okay. So on the commission side, any other comments?
I guess if they were gonna do any of the vinyl piling, where are they gonna access to? I mean, I haven't been there in years. I didn't make the site visit, but
Right.
like, you have to drive those pilings with machinery. Is there even enough room to get machinery in there, or?
Well, that's
how would any of that be?
That's a
I
good
mean, that's
question.
not our problem, but I
Right.
just wanna, it is a little bit to see how it's gonna be done. Also, it's one thing to propose a plan, but then to actually implement that plan.
No, listen, I think it's a valid point. So, maybe sheet pilings aren't the way to go on that property. Maybe it's boulders.
I don't know, I'm
Yeah.
just like, it's one thing for us to suggest something, but then, it does have to get done too, so. I guess it is.
That should be
partially our
noted on the plan also, how it's gonna be done. You've worked in close areas before, and it can be done. You just have to know how it's gonna be accessed.
Yeah, and that's what I'm
access
saying. I'm not
into-
saying that the pilings can't be done. I'm just saying, how are they gonna do it is, I guess, one
Yeah.
thing that would be nice to see how they're gonna do it.
Right.
Yeah,
Good call.
I agree.
Good call. So Ryan, I'm assuming you're gonna be looking for a continuation on this?
Yes, and we'll address those items.
Okay, so we're talking about the undermining, the tree, and then the stormwater runoff going into the town.
Correct. I'll circle back with Randy on that. Yep.
Okay.
And all the
So,
vegetation to be on the plan that's gonna be removed and replanted. So we know it's gonna have a stabilized area of the bank.
Okay.
All right, so the applicant has requested a continuation. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move to continue.
Jerry moved to continue. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Kevin seconded. Marissa?
Aye.
Davis and I. Excellent. Thank you. All right, so we have a 7:50 hearing. It's a new hearing, people. It's very exciting. The Southwick Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, GLC 131.40, and the Southwick Conservation Commission Regulations and Bylaws, Chapter 182 and Chapter 450 for a notice of intent. The project location is 130 Berkshire Avenue, Southwick, Mass. Map 135, Parcel 7. Proposed reconstruction of a failed stone retaining wall. Portions will be located within the buffer zone to Congamon Lake and bordering land subject to flooding. It is a hybrid meeting. It's taking place now. Who do we have on the line for the applicant?
Ryan Nelson from R. Levesque Associates, representing Ms. Teresa DeRosa for the project. She is also the owner of the property. Currently, there's a single family home. This is on the west side of the lake off of Berkshire Ave. The home has a walkout basement at the rear with an existing concrete slab patio, and it's underlain here by the proposed wall, but beneath this line work is an existing cobblestone retaining wall that was built quite a few decades ago, and it is settling, it's collapsing, and the concrete patio up above it has actually broken and started to angle and slide down the hill, and it's definitely an issue that needs to get fixed in the near future. So this proposed work is located within the buffer zone to Lake Congamon. The bank is delineated down here. There's an existing lawn, so the tree line is shown here, some large oak trees along this side property line, and this transitions to lawn to the southerly abutter here. There's existing wooden steps that are just built on grade going down the steep slope down to the waterfront. So as part of this project, the existing concrete patio would be removed. So construction access would come on the north side of the home through the lawn, probably jackhammer or crush with an excavator the concrete pad, put it into a truck, bring it off site, and then same with the demo of the wall. We have a silt fence located along the slope here to prevent any erosion or soil migration downslope into the lake. And then for a proposed wall, due to the height of the existing wall, this would have to be an engineered block retaining wall. At the ends, it would taper to grade, but in the center, have a wall height of about 7 feet tall. And then a new patio would be built behind on the upgrading side of that wall, and it would be relatively flush with the basement door walkout with about, a 1/4 foot pitch across that patio, draining towards the lake for drainage. Also, while we're going through this permitting process, the applicant has expressed a future desire to do kind of like a short seating wall down near the lake. So in this case, this is located within bordering land subject to flooding. The 100-year flood elevation is 229, which is shown as this darker dashed line here. The work is located within that. However, this would be a cut into the existing bank. So if we have, elevation 226 as this contour here, we'd be carrying that into the hillside about 3 or 4 feet. So it actually be a net gain of comp storage on site, and there wouldn't be any adverse impacts to bordering land subject to flooding. This would take place within an existing grass lawn, and silt fence would be installed downgrading of that work zone as well. So that's kind of like the frosting on the cake, but the main concern is the replacement of this upper retaining wall. We
On the bottom, you said it's not going to happen now. You said, did you say that was future? They're looking to do that in the future? Or is that part of this project?
It's part of this project. Well, I guess if they decide to do it, it would be done at the same time. But at this moment, just they're undecided if they're going to go through with that this year.
Okay.
We did receive Mass DEP comments or a file number, and there were no comments.
Hmm.
No comments for the upper portion part, I presume, not the seating wall, or did that include the seating wall?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Ryan, did their comments cover the entire project,
Yes.
including the bottom portion?
Yes, what you see here is what was submitted to Mass DEP.
Okay. I mean, as far as the upper part goes, it looks, if it's just a sheer replacement of what was currently there and really grade, nothing is going to be changed. And you're going to, is it just going to be silt fence or silt fence with bales? What do you think, Ryan? Does it need something sturdier than just silt fencing up there? I'm trying to read how steep the grade is.
Yeah, it's like an existing probably 3-to-1 or 2.5-to-1. So I did talk with a contractor on how we go about doing this. And obviously, once everything is demoed and carried out, the retaining wall would be built first. So you would entrench a base pad for the blocks to sit on, and then build up from there, and then backfill as you go. So, you know, there's really not a whole lot of soil disturbance down grading of the wall. So I don't, you know, it's up to the commission. I wouldn't say a hay bale is immediately necessary, but
That's about a 30-foot differential though, from up top to down by the water, right?
correct. Yeah, down by the water is about 225.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good slope. But it has a distance to travel before it goes into the lake.
Yeah, and I think it might be a good idea, even if, you know, the applicant doesn't do this lower retaining wall, that maybe a secondary line of silt fence be placed at the bottom, just in case something failed up top.
Or if you get a good rain or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good idea.
Dennis, are you familiar with the property? Have you been out there?
I haven't been out there since Kerry Granfield cut all the trees down. That was about 15 years ago, maybe longer.
Right.
But yeah, it's pretty steep, and I'm sure it needs it. And it looks like a straightforward project to me. I don't need to go out and look at it. I think the second silt fence at the bottom is a good idea.
You can put that in the order of conditions.
Yeah.
Great. Anybody else from the commission have any other questions? All right, so does anybody want to make a motion to close the hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
I'll
I
second.
will second. Jerry seconds it. Dave, aye. Marissa?
Aye.
Do I hear any motions to accept the project?
I'll move to accept the project with the conditions outlined.
Hear a second?
I'll second.
Marissa seconds.
Do we,
That would be,
do we want a
With a
bond? on that?
$10,000 bond, sorry.
Yeah, we want a bond on that, right? Yeah.
Standard order of conditions
Standard, that's a standard thing.
with a $10,000 bond and the second set of silt fencing down towards the water line.
Right.
So Jerry made a motion. Marissa, did you second?
Yes.
Kevin?
Aye.
Dave, aye. Here we go. All right. Ryan, maybe one more?
Sure. Why not?
So we have an 8 o'clock hearing for the Southwick Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, GLC 131.40, and the Southwick Conservation Commission Regulations and Bylaws, Chapter 182, Chapter 450. For a notice of intent, the project location is 6 Silvergrass Lane, Southwick, Mass. Map 26, block 11, I should say, parcel 10, proposed construction of a single-family home with associated site improvement, including a driveway, site grading, septic system, portion of which will be located within the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. The meeting is taking place now via Zoom. Who do we have for the applicant?
Ryan Nelson from R. Levesque Associates, representing Mr. Greg Hamlin. You can see our plan here. As David stated, this is a proposed single-family home on Lot 6 of Silvergrass Lane. So this is the Southwick Country Club on the east side off Tannery Road. We have an existing wetland boundary here that was approved during the subdivision process. It abuts the open space property here. This is our 50-foot wetland boundary. This is our 100-foot wetland boundary. The house is located partially within the 100-foot buffer zone. Septic system is located outside the buffer zone. Septic system is shown here with a future reserve area in the front yard here. We have a driveway off of Silvergrass Lane with a turnaround, a side entry garage. And then the property slopes down to a daylighted basement in the back. We have a silt fence shown around the perimeter of the work site. Most of the property is or will be occurring within the one of the former fairways. So there's not a whole lot of tree clearing involved. Just this little segment over here and a patch right back here. We have conservation monuments proposed along the 50-foot buffer zone, and that was also going to be the limit of work. So majority of the work is this portion of the house within the 50-foot buffer zone and grading within the 50 within an existing golf fairway.
You mean within 100, right?
Yes, sorry. Yep.
It's okay. What's the setback right now?
To the
road from the house?
let's see here. I don't have an exact number for you. I can't measure on this version of Adobe I'm using. But it looks to be from the front left corner of the house to the property line, maybe 50-ish feet.
Yeah, it's a tight lot.
Mm.
Ryan, they haven't, I mean, just because it's over there, I'm gonna ask the question. They haven't already built this thing, right?
No, this is a clean lot.
Okay,
going
good.
About in the proper procedures.
You have to ask. You have to ask.
So these, like, was this already, I think it was obviously has a lot number 6. This was actually like a lot that was always a lot. It's not like it's something that they're adding, right? Or anything like that.
Well, it
I'm
was a
doing this,
lot in
like-
the subdivision when
Yeah.
they drew up the subdivision, but I mean.
We
when it-
don't see everything.
Right, when it was a golf course, it obviously
yeah,
wasn't a lot.
Yeah. No, I get that, but what I'm saying is, it's like, this was always a lot proposed lot when the subdivision was proposed.
Yes. Yeah. I'm trying to get a sense for where this is.
I could hold on. I can find you an overview sheet here. Give me one moment. I'm bringing it up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Let's see it.
Yeah, so we've been working down the line 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and now we're on number 10 right here.
By wedge.
Yep.
Is it number 10 or number 6, Ryan?
Sorry, it's lot number 10 of the subdivision, but the address is 6.
Oh, okay.
I may have misspoke.
It's all very confusing.
And I imagine the monuments on that, Ryan, will be nice and tight around the 50-foot buffer.
Yes, so we
I mean,
have,
as tight as it normally gets. Typically, what are the distances between those boulders?
we show every 25 on this. So
Okay.
one here, there.
Every
there.
25, okay.
Yep.
And they're the usual big ones, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Any possibility of where the trees are coming down on the western side? To put in some sort of vegetation? I know there will be monumentation there, but the
Yeah,
boulders.
so where I'm sorry, I'm just trying to figure out your question, where the areas
I
of
think it's
tree
like the
removal are?
western.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
where the trees are coming down, where you mentioned it's really the only place on the lot where there's some trees will be coming down. And it's within the 50-foot buffer zone. And then the monumentation is to the north of it.
so north would be, see the north arrow here, the plans.
Right, so I think it's more to the west of the,
In that back little peninsula,
Yeah, so you'll see there's an
there's
existing.
No.
two
tree line.
areas.
Yep,
yeah, that area where your cursor is now, correct, exactly.
right. So we're clearing this area to give some sort of usable lawn space. Due to the septic and the site grading, we had to build it up for the septic. It's really the only flat usable lawn area there is. But yes, this is the area that will be cleared, this little wedge right here.
Right, but any chance that you could put some shrubbery even closer to that monumentation so that they can still have some space, but at the same time, it's just really close to, you know, and if it's going to be usable area, I can just foresee people going into that buffer zone, boulders or not, so.
Yeah, I'd have to defer to Greg on that. He's probably been in talks with a prospective buyer, and maybe has a better game plan as to what the people would be agreeable to.
Greg
He's still on
Hamlin, Greg Hamlin, 143 South Long Yard. That part, and I don't know your name. I think it's Marissa. That's not as dense as it shows on the thing. I honestly think that it's off memory. It's only like maybe one or two trees, both leaning towards the house.
Right. And my concern wasn't, I mean, it's too bad when trees are taken down, but it's just so close as well to the buffer. And if that's effectively going to be their only area, usable area of the lawn, then that's where you get transgressions happening sometimes when there's that zone right there and there isn't that much space. So I know the boulders are going to be there. So I was wondering if you'd be amenable to the possibility of some sort of short shrub vegetation, just really close to those boulders, even maybe just a
between the
line's worth
boulders?
or something. It could be between the boulders or just abutting them. So that way they still can maximize the most amount of space. I'm not asking you to put trees there or anything and take up that precious lawn space, just some sort of low-lying vegetation to kind of emphasize that that is like a no-go zone.
Enhanced buffer area.
Right, a buffer, but then it's not that far off, especially if it's not that big of an area to use.
Guess that would be up to you guys. I mean, I think the boulders are what's been consistent throughout. The spacing of the boulders have been consistent for what you guys have been doing. I don't really have too much to say other than that.
You want to go take a look at it? See what's there?
I mean, just to see that corner, I don't know if it's worth orchestrating a whole visit, but it was more just putting it out there as a consideration. But if you think the boulders will suffice and that there wouldn't be any violations and that's going to send a clear enough message, then hopefully that will be enough. So we shall see.
Greg, a couple of bushes, come on now.
The bold, like I said, that's going to be your guys' call. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's pretty dense over here along the property line. But right here, I mean, I know it delineates some trees there, but I don't think there's as much there as you guys think.
You could enhance the buffer inside the 50-foot if it needs it. I'm not sure. Is it any trees over there down in the 50-foot buffer area?
There are trees back over here that are down. We're not going in there or anything, but yeah, there's some trees down within the 50-foot that I think they've been talking to Randy Brown about and stuff like that. Trying to get them out of there.
Well,
Well, definitely, if you take anything out of there, definitely going to have to replace it with something to enhance that buffer area to keep them out of the
Everything,
wetlands.
maybe I misunderstood you. Everything over here is up and intact. It's just more down over here as you get closer in here. There's been some from wind and stuff like that, not like broken trees, all that stuff, just leaning.
Yeah, when you're saying here and there, we.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at.
Yeah, we can't see
I'm
it.
looking at my own cursor. I hate this Zoom thing. I apologize.
so Greg,
I
those
I
are
don't
the
know. How big,
trees.
are you in a rush to get this done, or do you have time for a site visit for it?
Well, they've been waiting a little bit. I'd like to start pulling. I mean, I'd like to start pulling the permit on it. That's kind of where I'm at. I've waited for this meeting to hold so that I could tell them, you know, where we stand. You know, I'd like to start pulling the permit to get going on it. Yes.
I mean, the commission could always issue an order of conditions with the boulders and enhance the buffer area, you know, up to, you know, whatever it takes to ensure that the buffer area is what it's supposed to be to keep the wetlands safe, the resource area safe.
That would be satisfactory. I think. Yeah, to enhance that buffer zone, yeah.
All right.
Would that
Well,
need to
maybe
be,
that'll,
would that need to be defined? What the enhanced area is?
it will have to
It would
be
be
in the order conditions to find, yeah.
Okay.
It would be in order of conditions. It would have to be in order to protect the wetland area. I mean,
Right. And
and then when
probably,
they come for a certificate of compliance, if it's done, so it's protecting it, they get a certificate of compliance and their bond back. If it's not done, what we think is done in the correct manner, then they don't get the bond back and they'll get a certificate of compliance until it's done correctly.
okay.
So you could vaguely, you know, you could loosely word it like that.
I think, you know, if we're gonna be looking at orders of conditions, we've already, through our tree warden, agreed that there were a couple of trees that could come off of that property, correct?
Correct.
So from an
Not
enhanced
this,
buffer
not this,
standpoint-
not this property right here, Dave. Another lot.
So you had just mentioned there was trees that had to come out of there.
Not out of this property. I was talking about the development as a whole. There's some
Okay.
leaning trees and stuff like that. So if I confused you, I apologize.
All right, that's fine, because I just want to make sure if we're pulling something out, we're replacing it with something new.
Nothing is coming out of the 50-foot buffer zone on this property.
So as a commission, if we're looking to enhance the buffer zone, what would be the suggestions?
I mean, just low-lying vegetation of some kind, you know? And Greg, thank you for entertaining this, this conversation. And the reason why I'm having it, I'm not trying to be difficult. It's just that I'm leery when there are small areas for people to kind of use as usable lawn. That's where you start to see people exploring beyond those bounds. It's just natural. It's human nature. So, and it's our job as a commission to make sure that there's safeguards in place so that that doesn't happen, that the buffer zone doesn't just become an extension over the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. So monumentation with the boulders, that's fine, but I'm just looking for some sort of vegetation as well that will also enhance that area in terms of the ecological value and kind of not just act as a buffer, but will also kind of help the wetland itself stay a wetland.
So what if there was a compromise where you could either in that lawn area, move the boulders closer together, which would make it more difficult for them to encroach beyond that,
Sure.
or have plantings between the boulders that help define that line, but only for that space that abuts that lawn area.
Right.
So Greg, that's,
So we're talking one shrub.
is there only one shrub between?
That's where there's only one shrub that would be between the two boulders where she's talking about.
Mhm.
Oh, well, yeah,
The other one's the property line.
yep. And what's,
How do we feel about a small wooden fence running behind the boulders?
That I would for, for where building costs are and everything, I would ask that I would rather do one shrub than put a
Okay.
fence up.
Just
And I
bringing
think
it up.
that's kind of up to the homeowner if they want to fence.
Just
So,
looking for options, that's all.
I appreciate it.
big old fence. So what do you think, Marissa?
yeah, I think, yeah, well, let's go with the shrub, even if it's one shrub, it eventually will grow over time and have its own root system, enhance both the wetland aspect and act as a buffer. And I think we'll all be happy and hope that that's going to do the job. So thank
Excellent.
you. Thank you, everybody.
So would you like to make a motion to close the hearing?
I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing.
Kevin,
I'll second that.
thank you. I was seconding for you there, wasn't I? Jared?
Aye.
Dave, aye. Next, we need to have a motion to accept with the conditions.
All right, I'll make the motion to accept this with conditions. Those are our standard conditions, right?
Yeah.
As well as
$10,000 bond
$10,000 bond plus the shrub
and the shrub.
and the monumentation that we
And
mentioned,
the
right? I think
monumentation.
that's already in the plan, but just to emphasize that.
Excellent. Can I get a second?
I'll
Second.
it.
Kevin seconds. Jerry, sorry, you were a
Aye.
second too
A
late.
little late on that one.
You were
Aye.
a second too late to second. So, and I'm an aye as well. So we're all good to go there. Wow.
Yay.
Thanks. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Greg.
Brian.
Thank you.
Dave, I want to remind you
Thank
that I did talk to you earlier about the town meeting and the warrant article. I sent off the explanations to the members, and you said you would address that tonight. I
Yeah,
think
so
Diane
very-
Gale is in the crowd.
She is. She is. So this is in addition to the new business. So there is the
Point of discussion.
point of discussion. There's the major development warrant article that is going before the town meeting tomorrow night. And I know a bunch of other boards have gone and voted to just lend their support to this warrant article, just to say that, you know, we've heard it, we agree with it, we'd like the town to consider it. So Dennis asked, and I've been asked, that we as a committee vote either up or down. It's your call whether or not you think we as a committee would want to endorse that for the town meeting. So is there discussion over whether or not we feel it's appropriate to do that?
I would say that it aligns overall with the mission of the commission to have that sort of information ahead of time. I think it would only enhance our understanding of projects coming down the pipeline to have that sort of information, and will help us kind of deliberate when it comes to our jurisdiction of wetland protection. So I would say that this is something that would benefit our work. So
So just to understand, and you're the primary author of this, it's to give clarity to projects that are being done, not to restrict or ban projects. You just want greater clarity upfront to the public.
Diane,
Diane Gale, 5 Point Brooklyn.
thank you.
That is correct.
Okay,
That is correct. It is front loading the information. It is providing a community meeting to deliver that information where every member of any board is free to attend and get all of that information up front. Take it back to your commission, and you're aware of what everybody else said, not
Okay.
what they said behind the meeting door, but in public on the entire project.
okay. So does anybody want to make a motion to voice our support?
Well, first of all, I think it's a good bylaw. We're talking about Article 19, I assume, from when we got the notice on today. I've read it and it does look pretty good. And I like the part on the back where under thresholds, it doesn't put any pressure on existing businesses that want to seek expansion. So that's probably a good thing. I think it's a good bylaw. I'm in favor of it.
So if we want to make it formal, then we need a vote. Jerry, would you like to make a motion?
I'll move to show support from the Conservation Commission that we agree and approve the bylaw as proposed.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Kevin?
Aye.
Dave, aye. All right. Anything else, any other new business that needs to be discussed at tonight's meeting? Or can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Okay.